Welcome to our Compass Show this evening, or this afternoon, whatever time of day you are watching it. I am really super excited. We just got done celebrating 50 years of the Marshall Area Senior Citizens. And along with that, we looked at the vision and the history, and the vision was really to care for the elderly in our community. And through that, that vision's carried forward, and we are serving them, and the way that they have needs and services today look very different. But one of those areas is information. And so today, I'd like to welcome Jaen Weilage and Rebekah Reynolds. And they're with A.C.E of Southwest Minnesota,
Correct,
right?
yes.
So welcome both of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Really excited. So today we're going to talk about a topic, and I always find it very interesting because when you say dementia, people go,
Look the other way.
But the best way to deal with some of these hard subjects is really to, one, get facts, two, fill yourself up with information. So if you reach the point where you are dealing with a situation yourself personally or with a friend, you already have the information and resources, and you've already been filled up, so you can already react and be helpful instead of, oh no, I'm in crisis mode, where do I go? So today we are going to talk about that topic. And so with that, let's get started.
Well, Barb, first of all, congratulations on those 50 years.
Yeah, so exciting.
I got a newsletter and was reading the great history over all those years. Now, A.C.E is a newer organization of just 2 years here, but across, there's a 7-county system, and it's been in place like 15 years or so already. So Lyon County's rather new, but we're here as an organization. The A stands for Advocate, Connect, and Educate. So one big word, we're looking for those experts that are doing that aging right now, because we're here to serve people over the age of 55 specifically, and fill gaps and needs that are in our community, in our county. And one of those would be taking a look at dementia.
Right.
And number one, let's define it, right?
Yeah, what is dementia?
I want to just point out that that's just kind of an overall term. It's sort of a set of symptoms that can happen to someone when they are concerned with, their memory. And another really good point to make is that could happen at any time for many different conditions.
Right.
Can you think of one off the top of your head, Barb?
Yes.
Not to test you or anything, but
as far as other conditions, I know it's very common if people have a urinary tract infection. Lots of times they'll have a memory lapse, or they'll forget certain things when they have one of those. And people are going, whoa, did she just say that on TV? Yes, I did.
She did.
But it's very factual information, and so sometimes people don't think of that. And I think people also confuse just some general aging with dementia, and so we will cover
what's
those.
Normal and what's not, obviously, but you make a good point about it. Could be a medical condition that could be easily corrected. So another reason to stay on top of your brain health is to make note of things that are different in your day-to-day operations and your routine. I'm thinking about things also like depression, maybe medication change that can do that. You might have a condition like a thyroid problem. It could be just a number of things that are going to mask maybe what's there, because no one wants to say that other word, Alzheimer's disease, which we use Alzheimer's so much with talking about some kind of memory loss, because that is the majority of types, but we really know much more. In fact, one of the gaps I talked about, in meeting this need in our community was A.C.E right now has a grant from the Minnesota Board on Aging. And Rebekah, getting trained in to work with the program, will be, she's actually right now in a course taking modules and studying and learning, so she can be one of the local experts to turn to. There's so much to learn. There's so many parts. Can you think of
Rebekah,
one thing?
what do you think about that process as you've been The information, I always call it information overload, but it's good stuff.
Yeah, it's great stuff, and you know, it's drinking from that fire hose when you first start a job. It's personal to me because in March, for the last year, I've suffered with Lyme disease and just was diagnosed in March. And so in December of last year, I was diagnosed with mild cognitive impairment.
Oh, wow.
And so, yep, it was a diagnosis of coming in there. So I have a really unique perspective of having had a form of dementia. I'm lucky enough to be getting better and coming back from it, but it's very personal. And actually reading and learning all about dementia and Alzheimer's is it's hard to revisit all of that because it was quite a journey this last year. And so it's been pretty interesting, but what a fascinating thing, and what a great personal way to link it to my experience, and to help others understand perhaps what someone with dementia is going through, that they maybe don't have the words to tell you. And so I'll be in a position where I'm going to be able to speak to that very well.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a really good point. You had Lyme's disease.
Yes.
And so going back to Jane's question, how many other medical conditions can cause
the heart
temporary
disease, diabetes,
cognitive impairment, and you're not being diagnosed with dementia because it's a temporary situation.
Yeah, and it certainly is a little different story when you get a diagnosis and they give you things like, well, you're going to be able to get better. I have a completely different story, of course, than someone with dementia or Alzheimer's, but certainly so many similarities that it will be fascinating to be a part of this study and learn all about it.
Yeah,
so.
to personally connect.
Yes.
That's wonderful. Maybe we should go on, and I often wonder when I go about my day, I mean, there isn't a day that doesn't go by where I talk with someone who is dealing with, as a caregiver, or they're talking about a friend who has some form of dementia. And so I always go, I wonder if the general public, or for instance, your friends, my friends, have they ever thought about how many people in the state of Minnesota are affected by this disease? So Jane, do you have some of those stats?
Yes, I do, right in front of me, Barb.
Yay.
You know, we're also very fortunate here in Marshall from the perspective, or in our local community area, of having an Act on Alzheimer's grant.
We do.
And we've done amazing things, and September was a really bang-up month where we were just doing lots of education and different programming, and we're really making strides. And today we won't necessarily focus on all of those pieces. But it's been really neat to be on the forefront of that, because we're going to affect people here because of the baby boomers getting older. So there's
you said it. Thank you.
88,000 Minnesotans age 65 and older live with Alzheimer's disease right now, and the number is growing.
So think of that, 88,000. Do you think your life will be impacted at some point? Yes.
And whether yourself or you're a caregiver or someone you love, that this will definitely come across, because the numbers are staggering as far as this generation that's coming forward. And we are living longer, but there's maybe more complications. Honestly, that's one of the main factors of having Alzheimer's disease, is a long life. And that the statistics are in front of me here. 1 in 9 people age 65 and over has Alzheimer's, and then once you get to 85 and plus, it's going to be 1/3 of the people. So that it is a number.
So 33% to 85 and older. That's a huge, huge number when you really think about it. If you took a room of 9 people, you take 3 of them, and that 9. So if you think about that, it's going to impact you.
And I think with some of the projects we've had here, we want to remind people that you can live with this condition very successfully. We want to demystify some of the pieces, like getting the proper diagnosis in the first place, or things that you can be active about, and keeping your brain operating to its fullest capacity as long as possible. It isn't like immediately there's a line you cross and like you can't function anymore. To remind people that we really want to take away that stigma too that comes with the condition, like they're not the same person. You know, there might be things that do change, but it's a very slow progression.
Yep.
And I think we've talked about this once before too, Barb, that it's over a number of years.
Yes.
So you might not even notice this right away with someone who's having change, because it's a brain disease. You're going to look and see the same person, but we can't see that brain, can we?
No.
And so that was a really a moment for me when we saw some slides or some pictures of what the brain looks like, because it does change.
Yeah.
But it's an amazing piece of how it operates everything. And one of the great trainings that I was at was a program with Dr. Barclay from the U of M. He works with health partners. And he was making the suggestion that there should be another vital sign. You know, you think about the regular things that you get tested out when you go to the
blood,
your pulse, and he was saying that there should be a 6. Maybe there'll be arguments about what the 6 should be, but he was saying cognitive function is where it all starts.
Right.
Because it's back to how our brain controls our body, how it's working.
Right.
And we don't check that.
No.
Although, Barb, did you realize now when you go for a wellness exam after the age of 65, I do believe through Medicare, and they're noticing, I mean, it is part of your wellness exam that you can have when you turn 65 annually, have this done. You would make a assessment of your memory.
Right.
So there'd be like a little memory screening part of your exam at the doctor's office.
Right. And I think so many people go, oh no, do I really want that? And I think it's good to have that base. So if something does go awry, then they have mechanisms. Just like, why do they think they take your blood pressure? Some people will run really low, some will run a little higher. So when they see that changes, they can say, we have the base. Now we can really, really judge that. And I think that's really critical for people to really say, yeah, this is okay. And I'm happy to hear you say that, you know, it's a slow process. And I think we're going to get into that about the 10 signs, because I think sometimes people at first, some as an individual may question it, family members may question it, and then they have a really good day and they go, oh, nah, it's all okay. So it's going to be fun to go over those 10 signs too, to just kind of really hit it.
Exactly. We don't understand, you know, how the brain operates on its best days, and I think this is really what it's about. Or not to be offended by someone wanting to check that, because you would check anything that was wrong and wanting to make an adjustment. I like comparing too how the stigma has changed a bit. Like if someone told you had cancer, back when I first entered the medical career, or you know, working, we didn't want to talk about that. We didn't want to tell someone with that condition, and that's changed so much. And I think we can do that too for Alzheimer's and dementia too. That what can we do? We want to know. We want to help you and be more open.
Right, and I think, you know, when I got diagnosed and when I was having so much trouble with memory, driving to the wrong place and not remembering things that people had just told me and losing some of that snap, I had countless people that told me, don't be telling anybody about that. Rebekah, don't tell anybody about that, you know, because you're worried about, are you going to be able to keep a job, and are you know, all of these factors. And I think the more you talk about it, the more the stigma really goes away from that. And, you know, you start bringing in those statistics and helping people to understand more about it, so you can start that conversation.
And I also think that if you share it, then what are key things that people close to you and love you can do to help you walk through the process and make the journey more enjoyable instead of a constant battle. And I think people, if they would just say, yes, I'd rather make the journey enjoyable as we can, instead of every day, where's the battle, it'll be a much better journey. So what about the 10 signs? Should we touch those? Okay.
Because it can be so subtle. Because as we're going along, I think that's what I'm getting at too. It's like, it might be things you notice in like judgment or reasoning or just response times, but some of the specific things from the Alzheimer's Association, we realize memory does change as we grow older.
Definitely.
But again, there's things that we can do that other people can't, because I'm going to call out that I'm of that generation, that I'm not maybe as quick as I once was to respond to something or to solve a problem, but I can, given the time. And so our memory does change.
Right.
But they're talking about memory changes that actually disrupt your daily life.
Yep. And so that's a big difference. Like you said, you can, sometimes it may take you longer, but you can still process and solve it, as to where you're saying memory that disrupts daily life, like, okay, I forgot to have lunch today and I didn't even know if I had lunch. That's disruptive. So some of those are, trying to get a better handle on some of those disruptions.
And kind of as we go through this list of 10, you could think about how, for yourself to notice these things, but also for people you know, and just to kind of be alert and not, I'm not calling people out necessarily, Barb, but I want you to think about it in a different way, like, well, that's different, or like see if it repeats again. A second one would be challenges in planning or solving problems.
Yeah.
Some people may experience changes in their ability to follow a plan that they had set out, or again.
And Rebekah kind of touched on that. I was going to go here, but I ended up there.
Right.
But she was able to figure it out.
Right.
But if you're starting to have further into the Alzheimer's, you would not be able to figure it out. So it's
exactly, like it might be normal to forget an appointment or something that you're supposed to go to, but then you think of it later, so that you it's still you're still fine.
You were able to say, yes, I remembered that, I forgot it. So
and if you completely forgot what you were going to do, another is difficulty completing familiar tasks. So that you would have trouble. Again, maybe back to that money part, like even being able to handle your budget, like you're noticing for someone, they're just not able to get the correct change, or they're really fussing over making a payment, like they didn't come through at the bank.
And that could be, I even think that could be somebody locally, for instance, let's take utilities, we pay that monthly, right? So they may notice down there that this one individual always comes in exactly 3 days before the bill is due, and now the person's always coming in 5 to 10 days late. Is that a cue?
Yeah.
It's probably just a question. We don't want people just to jump to conclusions, but is it repeating? Is it causing concern? That's what we're asking.
Another would be confusion with time or place, like knowing where you are. I think that, again, Rebekah, the idea of setting off to go somewhere and then ending up somewhere else, and how did you get there, can, that's not right. Like what's going on there. Where I'm thinking of being at a hotel and getting up and like, okay, where am I today? And where was the lobby? Like that's normal, where you just have to figure it out, and you can. But if you are, noticing that, or if someone
that you can't figure out why
has gaps, to what they were doing. Number 5 is understanding visual images and spatial relationships, that you're having trouble with that. Or for someone actually who would be doing a memory screening, one of the interesting parts to a really simple screening is a clock face.
Yes.
Do you know this
Yes,
part?
yes, without the numbers.
So it's just a white circle, or a blank circle, I want to say, and then you're asked to put in a time. And this is when maybe you might notice that someone's having trouble with putting that the actual arrows where they should go, where the clock face would, if you ask them to set that time of day. And it's like that relationship between what the time actually is on the clock, or seeing it digitally, but still being able to complete that task of.
And I think typically they don't ask, like, what time, can you put the time of 1:57 on the clock? It isn't that. They're asking like the 1:30s, the 2:30s, the 3 o'clocks. The more normal times, that would be fairly easy to draw out, that then cue us in, that say, okay, they're not recalling that. Is there a reason for concern?
And this is a good time to mention is there something else going on? For example, it might be vision changes. When we talk about a clock, maybe they're not able to see the clock so well, or their favorite clock, or the battery's out of the their clock.
Yeah.
But another subtle one would be that they're not finding the name for something. Like they make up something, that gadget, or talk about what that the watch would perform for them, that timekeeper thing, where you start
I'm
not
looking
being
for
able
this.
to say,
I'm looking for this. Yeah.
And honestly, you can function along, but you still, that's a little sign that what's going on.
Right.
So that would be a specific number 6. New problems with words or speaking or writing things.
Right. Does that also fall into the category of, do you know this one, Jane? I know general words in general, like with names. Is this at the point where they may perhaps start forgetting maybe a child's name, or a spouse's name may come and go, that type of thing?
And I think someone if they haven't known as long would be
the first to be lost, the most recent memory. So if you're a newer friend, that may be lost. And that one always cues me in, and I always say, hello, remember me? It's like, oh, please don't do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Go up and say, hello, my name is, or hello, this is Barb.
Yeah.
Just those little cues.
Yep.
And I think we often forget that because we just assume, oh, I've been friends with them forever, they'll always remember me. But just helping that process and taking that edge off for them. Hello, this is who I am. It's okay.
Yeah, I had to ask people many times that I knew.
You knew.
Yeah, and you'd be mid-sentence and forget their name, or forget what you were talking about mid-sentence and things, and that's a tough one, and if somebody is kind enough to just go ahead and pop in without feeling insulted, remembering to do that for a lot of people, I think it's so helpful.
Yeah, definitely.
That reminds me of another workshop I attended that was Don't You Remember? That was pretty much the focus of it all, because you can't just say that out loud. I mean, you can think that maybe when you're dealing with someone you're suspicious of having changes, but try to redirect them, or say that I'm Barb, I'm Jane, we're going to do, giving them some clues to work with. They know our faces, and they know probably what we did leave off that we were going to do, or going to play cards next or whatever. But putting people on the spot to say, well, don't you remember that? That's so hard, and it's so easy to do. Like even at a family gathering where you're trying to prompt someone to get that good memory, and sometimes it works, but if you see it's not, if you're getting kind of a blank, that would be another a clue, I think.
I think that's one of the biggest things we can tell people out there. If you have a loved one who has some form of dementia, get rid of the phrase, don't you remember? Just throw it out of your vocabulary. It doesn't exist anymore. And just very simply fill it in. Like you said, hello, I'm your oldest daughter. Period.
Just get that.
We're going to go play cards now.
Yep.
Period.
Or bring some
short,
kind of
simple.
a prop or something,
Yeah.
even, if there's something you want to talk about, or pictures of your kids, like that you can help someone out, not put them on the spot.
Yeah. Because it puts up a defense mechanism, and then the person knows that they don't know at certain points. And so you've already created a great amount of anxiety.
Yeah, it's
so
a
if you can
panic
take
attack.
that down. Yeah.
It's a
so
panic
if you can
attack.
Take it down.
Like, oh my God, I've lost my mind. I truly.
Yeah. So if you take that down and you help them by saying, this is who I am, it cues them, and then they go, oh, I got this piece yet. I've got this piece.
Yeah, exactly.
So it really, really helps.
Another one to watch for is misplacing things, or losing the ability to retrace steps.
Jane, I misplaced my keys this morning. Does that count?
That would be all right.
I found them.
And that's why you're doing okay. They weren't in a real unusual place. Like
nope, I hung them up on a different hook.
And I think as we age, this is a good point to keep in mind, that create those routines for yourself that help you get established. That I'm not so much of a routine person, so I think I need to really start with some of those parts. But I can find them by retracing my steps, so I'm still okay. Now, we are visiting someone and the keys end up in the freezer, or
That's
they are
a little different.
Totally, like left under the apple tree, and they could have fell, but you just want to make sure that, again, that would be something to notice. And
Alrighty.
it's normal to forget, like maybe where you took your glasses off again or something,
Yeah,
something
yeah.
simple like that.
We've got 2 more signs to go through.
Decreased or poor judgment.
Okay.
Can you think of example there, Barb?
Decreased or poor judgment. It's probably, I'm just thinking if you're going through your daily life and you're going to go outside and you forget, and there's snow on the ground, you don't put boots on, you go out in sandals.
Good example. Or even some
You know.
personal grooming where you
Yeah.
see someone who's always been dressed to the T's, or they just look a little more disheveled.
Frumped.
Yep. Again, that's just something that's
I think
harder.
another subtle one in that area, and I know we got to move along because time's running, is lots of times I will see people come in and it looks like their hair isn't combed. And they, most people will come down with their hair combed. And it can be just, in that area where they may not see it or a little bit on the side. It's like, I wonder.
Or some of that
So-
self-care where they're not doing it head to toe.
Right.
They're getting out the door and they're getting to the event, but
Yep.
no. Number 9, withdrawal from work or social activities.
Yep.
We can
And I
see
bet
that.
you Rebekah would say, there's days I wish I could have just went into my shell and said, I don't have to try to figure out where I'm going or what I have to do and take step 1, 2, 3 to help me.
And that's exactly, my husband is very, very social and loves to have parties at our house. So twice a month we have a big party. And all of last year, I just had someone mention it to me at one of the parties the other day, how they had not seen me and they thought I was mad at them.
Yeah.
And really, I just could not stand to be around that many people. I did not feel well, and I wasn't remembering things. I wasn't remembering names, and so I did. I sat in the bedroom while the party went on, and would pop in and out a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I can't imagine being in that constant panic mode because you
Right.
don't remember. And we better get on to
And
the
that
last
reflects
one.
number 10 is changes in mood and personality.
Yeah, and so you will
Mm-hmm.
see that. And I can, when you say moods and personalities, I have heard so many stories over the years of, you wouldn't believe what happened last night. My spouse said or did this. That is not them. Or I went to, meet up with them because they're in a facility here in the community. And I can't believe it. That individual was eating cabbage. They've never eaten cabbage their entire life. A mood or personality change. That's an example of some
Or
of
someone
that.
who gets very suspicious too could be
Oh
another.
yeah, very
not-
common.
not
Yeah,
trusting.
yeah.
And,
So
and all of those, again, could be very different in each individual that might
Yes,
have it.
yes.
And I like to reflect too that often people don't just have one condition. There's
Right.
many others that are combining to make it a harder part.
Right, right. So it's really taken a whole look at it, and I think probably one of the big keys is if you're seeing it on a repetitive routine, then begin to question it and be very kind about it. I always say that if you don't know someone, or you will know someone, and we all hope that it isn't us who will walk through it on a personal level or with a
Well,
spouse.
honestly,
So-
Barb, if it's not us, it's going to be very
Someone we
personal
know,
because someone
yeah,
we know.
yeah.
And then what can we
So
do?
remember that.
And that's been a big part of these last years of doing more and more in the community
Right.
to help people not be alone in this journey.
Right.
And then knowing what to do,
Right.
what to do next.
Wonderful resources.
And we do look to have some events, specifically one in November.
Yeah, let's talk about
Did you
that.
know November is Alzheimer's Awareness Month here?
I did.
Across the nation.
Yeah.
And I looked this up, Barb. It started in 1983, and it was designated by former President Ronald Reagan.
Okay.
So that's where it came from.
Okay. And what grand fun event do we have for November?
We are booking something at the YMCA on November 16th. So on
November
Wednesday
16th, okay.
at 10:30 it'll be.
Okay.
And we're going to have a speaker. Her name is Gretchen. She's coming from the Memory Care Clinic in Montevideo, so it's at the
Okay.
hospital there, the Chippewa County Montevideo Hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And she's going to talk about the fine tuning, the fine points behind why have a memory screening done.
Right.
And right now they have a whole clinic there where you can go for, like, if you have been referred by a doctor or from another clinic, they'll take you a little step further and give you more assessments and more support and more counseling
Right.
as to what to do next. And we're excited because we do believe this is going to be happening here in Marshall too.
Just going to say, we're taking the steps. We're getting ever so close to having a memory care facility here in Marshall, and I think that'll be critical as we tend to age in place at 55 and best, and that's just really, really exciting.
And some of those exciting things, do we need to cut off now, Barb?
Getting pretty close.
Because obviously we could talk another half an hour.
We could talk another hour, I know.
But with that program, we're excited to have it at the Y as well, because just as many of the activities and the socializing that happens there at the community center, the adult community center, at the Y, keeping active physically really does stave off the faster development. So we really want to encourage people, if you're some people who participate now, like in the yoga program and in the different exercise programs.
Right, it's wonderful.
To keep doing that. So we're going to tie all those things together and have an event with our group, which is the Marshall Area Dementia Awareness Network.
It gets to be a little long, so. You know, we have a lot of fun things coming up, and I know if you have any questions, I know you can give Jaen a call. And Jaen, your phone number is?
They could call, I want to just put out my cell phone number, Barb, 507-828-6261. 6261.
And either one of those two could direct you to what's going on in the area, or you can also give myself a call at 537-6109, and we'll get you connected. And if you're walking through it, or you have questions, or you want to learn more about it, come to the event on November 16th at the Y. So be looking for that information. And come join us, learn, be informed, and you can make a difference.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.